it has become a norm that Fridays kids don't go to school. And that is a pull for recruitment for gangsters. If these kids don't go to school, if there is no intervention of early childhood and...
All right, we come out of there where the police minister continues to address, of course, POPCRU's 10th Congress, but...
So, intervention is one big thing that must...
Housebreaking and theft...
Everybody to boost my police. Other levels of government that will have to help us are local governments, national and provincial. You know, I do a lot of irritating situation of working with the police when they go for raid and all that thing. Everybody asks, "Ufuna ucela uvimbana no commissioner?" Angaze ngivimbe commissioner mina. Commissioner has all the right to hamba, abe crime scene, and ucela akazuyeka kuba crime scene. If you think it's going to stop, I stop when. Because we must see there and explain and all that, but also understand how we work. I don't care, leadership, how many police you put in Diepsloot. There is a place in Diepsloot called Extension 1. As I walk with you, I can't see you. I touch you to feel if you're still there. That's Extension 1. No streets, no housing numbers, no electricity, no nothing. If something happens and the police call can't give an address, so goes the police are trying to find the crime scene. And they'll be asking up police, there is no road to go where there is crime. If we don't fix the infrastructure, what we call environmental design, we're not going to be able to reduce crime. It doesn't matter how many police you move. So there are other things that to be done to deal with the crime situation. Ngidlalela ngamaphoyisa nje. Ngeke afike kwi-crime scene. So what we're trying to do this one, we are beginning to see some green shoots on it. We hope it will go that way. But Lamula is here. He will explain. Why we would have 62 people bekeshayist abakwi-bail. Bekeshayist. 62 of them, they're on bail. One guy has been in court for 22 times and all his cases are withdrawn. When he was found guilty, was given the option of 6,000 rands. He's on 5 bails of cash heist. Boy. Kamalako boy. And he's a big friend, Pipi. Pipi no boy. Whether at least boy, Pipi is inside. Boy, go August, we arrested him. He was wanting the 6th bail. So I'm sure the activities that have been taking place, they made him to abandon bail. What happened in Makado, what is happening in Lainanda, amaphoyisa asethe uqinisa isandla kancane. Amaphoyisa aqinisa to Gauteng. They are taking everybody on, these criminals. We nearly lost the minister that would have been shot and killed by the criminals. They took everything, cell phones, money, whatever, laptop, everything. So the war has been declared by criminals. So when you find the war, you don't ask who started it. You might be a victim of your question. You get on it, and then when the dust has settled, you are boozed. So it's important, Lamul and all of us, that when the police do their work, we must be there to protect and defend them. So it's important that the leadership, the management of the police, must get ready to protect the police legally and otherwise when they do the work within there. There is this thing I hear. I don't want to say I'm attacking other elements of governance. There is this thing I hear, it has not come to me officially to say or formally to say, when Amapoisa fighting again as it is happening, they win, and then everything that happens there, it would be a murder. I don't understand that. There should remain an inquest. It can't be a murder. When police are shot at, really, and respond, and it's a must that they must win, Namapois. Because if they don't win, you are the last buffer between the stable and safe community and criminality. You see, Lawama should be ananda, O Pambai, O Ntlungwana, O Lindelanu Ziopumalem Zinya, Ungat is pretty estimate again. Ungat is figuring estimate. And I'm at 13, 12, 14 years. That's another problem. That's another problem. And then you begin to ask, where are the parents? When a 13-year-old died, a shipping in your baby, 13-year-old died, go for, because a first child in your baby died at 4:20 in the morning. A 13-year-old. Where is mother with your 13-year-old dying in shipping at 4 o'clock in the morning? So, these are the calls that we must make. As we do this, we are facing the new opposition, a new anti-policing and anti-crime fighting. There is a new bloc eyakhiwe by 3 people or 3 groups. Yakhiwe amaphoyisa amabi, amaphoyisa akhohlakele, who meet the media and some academia to discredit and fight the police. You see, kunephepha nje la eline-journalist. Njalo nje Sunday must talk about police, especially when it comes to the crime intelligence matters. It's because we're making strides on the crime intelligence in Jele comrades. People that we have put there, they are beginning to work. One thing, even in the Sunday Times was the first time, that long thing of not paying ama informers, that's lies, we do. What has happened, we have been phoned all the time, President, by abantu, look, I'm an operative, I'm an underground, I'm an undercover, but I'm actually mali amcele. You are no more an undercover, Moscow. We are exposed because we have changed the system. We say up to 3,000 operatives and those that are in provinces will pay. But we have put a new committee that will examine big monies, because these big monies, never arrive to the operatives. Zidliwe endleleni. Yes. Zidliwe endleleni. Now, those that we have cut them off now, bayabaleka bayemaphepheni. Bathi awakhokhelwa ama-hotel, awakhokhelwa ama-inform, ayakhokhelwa ukuthi imali ayisadluli kubona. So there is that new block, and then nama academia. There is just one academia here in this province. She has never seen any good thing from any police officer, and with some few of them. So you must understand that as you do good going forward, there will be people opposing you, because some of them are criminal representatives. Some of them even using national assets, SABC. But that one has been a big one, like social media and all that. I just want to bring my point. You know, I've been tired of late. But I'm tired of things. I got calling in Bomb and other KZN. I'm shy in Kuba. One painful thing is to bury a member of the South African Police Service. So I'm now human rights and all. I give them my human rights. I fought very hard for human rights. That's why I went to prison in exile, for life of people to be better. So don't tell me about human rights when Babu Akwa and Bob and human rights me. But major human rights is life itself. So it's important that lives, including in life, police and law enforcement, is your human right that must be defended at all costs. So the call to say you can't die with your guns in your hands is a correct call. As you want afbok, we're not afbok to bury you. I heard you, President, what is this term, austerity? Austerity. Bonile je, nithuma ulamula nocele they must pay you. Asikhokheli umuntu uthile, akhokhe ugodongwane. Mina nginesho ukuthi if I were paying you, hayi kabe ngiyayifaka. Because really, you know, this thing, you're by a minister and you never have an opportunity of. There is one minister that I knew very well, White Hand Kalefidinu Steve, Uchwete, wanted to be there. It makes you understand what these police are facing, especially the young ones. Because Ninari Kulu Senama Castle Ani Laba. We are Lababan. And you understand. You know, I hear people opening cases and all that for police. But go with them to roadblock and these raids and all that, and you see how about the Twensama police. You see, you turn your back and walk away because they will say ministers too. I went to one shipping here about 3-4 weeks ago in Newlands. It was 10 to 2 in the morning. Nobody sleeping in the neighborhood. You go. Ishaya imoto ozangayo amaphoyisa uzwe imoto ithi zu 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 And you just wonder, what about the neighborhood here? It's 10 to 2. When you come there, the shipping is illegal. The owner has been arrested 2 days. He's run by a 12 and a 14 and a 13-year-old. And everybody in the shipping is less than 18 years. And then, and they say, no, you can't do that. We're working here. Now, ngihamba ke nalabantu ngaleso sikhathi kuthiwa you manje sifuna ukubabamba ke lezi manje khona ne TV ngithi hayi imali ngingababambi. But uyahala ukubabamba nawe kodwa you know, I don't know what has gone in South Africa. Everything is illegal, age-wise. People that are serving, people that are receiving services there. The owner is arrested 2 days earlier because he was chasing somebody with illegal firearm. But they still argue. They still argue, calling police names. The criminality and greediness and greedy South Africans. South Africans are greedy. The resisting of people, they rob and all that kind of thing because there is poverty and all that. If you go for cash heist and ubamba 20 million, nakusasa, poverty there. Is that poverty? The question of finances, I must say, we're at a bad time here in South Africa about the law enforcement, especially police and finances. There was a time when there was a shortage of money. The first victim were police. Imali izovela kuthathana emaphoyiseni. Kwakunomuntu owakhiwa uTito, wayenje make wabona imali edingekayo ilande emaphoyiseni. We are not there, so much inadequate, but I must say, under President Ramaphosa, situation has been really looked at. That's why last year we had 10,000 people in the college. It's the first, it has never happened in the history of South Africa. This year we've got 10,000. Next year we'll have 10,000. But the problem with these 10,000 us, the figure that we'll have will be 2010 figure, not 2023. 2010, you had 195, the whole organization, 195,000. Now we have 187. South Africans were 50 million then, now they are 62 million, and we're 150. So the ratio has moved from 1 is to 222 to 1 is to 420. So people, they complain, they don't see amaphoyisa awekho. That's why ngawaboni awekho. So, but under the present dispensation and comrade to Cyril, even austerity has really tried. And the NUCOSA to work. But he has really tried. He's got an ear to listen, to speak to him and listen. There was a time when you talk about finances, the Mapoise, nobody listened. So we believe that this. That's why even special forces are not enough. We're not training enough TRT and IU because there is no pool of young blood in Mapoise. Detectives have left the services. We are re-inviting them to come back. Because our detectives, we don't send them to school, they grow in field. Our detectives. And one thing that we have realized, I wonder how much benefits, like, for instance, OPOP, ABO, and you got deployed sometimes and kube ngconywana. But ama detectives afakwe ibhuthi awagcwala amadocket ongakazi waboye. Sebenza umuntu azagobe kusekuseni. So we have said, let's try and work better dispensation for detectives. One worst thing, there is a very high degree of moving out of the organization, President. You see, I signed when they request the early retirement. One time I had to call them. Is this house burning? Why are you all living? In 1 month, 301 of them were leaving the organization. 1 month. So this 10,000 is not increasing the numbers, it's replacing. It's replacing, it's not increasing the numbers. So I sat down, I went one by one. One Nobo from Mahlabatin said, "Well, my daughter was born when I was warrant officer. She's a graduate, I'm a warrant officer. So ngiyahamba, ungancengi." And you realize you can't have, so if you are born and this will be a degree, at least you are 22 to 23 years. 23 years, your life is stagnant. So that's why there must be progression in my poison. But leadership, we can't have the army of generals. You are not going to be generals all. So if at least you can't be promoted, at least Imali must be promoted. There must be some movement in your life. So we are really discussing and finding out where to go on this one. I want to close by, or maybe before that, there is one thing that we have been raising, some of us, that ama lawmakers or lamula, maybe olamula phela ama lawmakers, mina ngazi lutho ngomthetho, mina ngazi ukuthi iphoyisa malibona isigebenga lishaye. There is a complaint which I agree with it, that the South African system is more sympathetic to criminals rather than victims. This document I spoke about of 6 pillars does speak about it, the support to the victims. You know, as I'm standing here, and my kids are at private school, they've got house and all that. If the criminal shoots me outside, the first thing, my kids will get out of school, their house will be repossessed, their car will be repossessed, there'll be no medical aid for them and all that. But a criminal will all know Utip. Ulamula, mase by trial, uzoibonu ulamulu to baby up our cold med uba come back. Avuke njala explain ngawo ama criminals. You know, South Africans are very sharp. I was at Lusigi. This young man stands up and said, "Minister, what do you do with criminal foreign nationals?" He said, "Oh, no, Bob." What no, Bob? Send them back home. I heard from him, Uguti, it's 13,000 a month to keep a criminal in prison. I'm going to be correct in the number. In Mali, I earn 13,000. It's less than that. Whatever the money. But he said to me, it's 13,000 to keep a single prisoner in prison. But all those that are innocent, you're giving them 350 rand. This is a young boy in Lusigi. You're right. We are not just keeping them with the 13 million or whatever, or 13,000. But guess what Shisa? bayadla. They attend the best medical facilities. They start bathola ama-PhD. Ezami ingane ngaleso sikhathi ngoba bangibulala siphansi kwe-bridge zamaphara. The system is more sympathetic and more understanding with criminals rather than the victims. So it's one thing that must be changed. We must be able to follow the victims. And nobody, we end up, even with you, Mapoisa, all of us, we end up with some but we never know again what happens to your family. I concede. After that, we don't know what happens to you and your families. With the exception that, Mapoisa, at least we started what was known as a scholarship. No. Grant. Scholarship was saying that at least kids, we know they go to school, but what is Pumapi, and all that, we have not looked at that. Lastly, welfare of our members' leadership. The incoming leadership will have to look at that. I must really praise the National Commission and the management. Though it's not a new thing, the gym. Ngo 2010 to negotiate nama gym ukuthi nithole some discount when you go to a gym. So I would really want to see you using that facility. And both Virgin Active, no, fitness, yeah. We're still working on the percentage. Percentage is 20% now. As a member of the South African Police, if you go and register there, you'll pay 20%. Please use that facility, guys. It's a part of the welfare of fit, no gym. It's just a social good thing. It's just a good thing. As a police officer, umzimba wakho nje mawuhamba nje abantu bangabuza ukuthi iphoyisa leli. Just have a whole body, not a body. So utilize those facilities. We're still working on those things. The other thing we have said, we management must try in the far labor kind, they must try ukuthi mhlambe kube ne central police station ezoba naleyo facility nikwazi nani ukuyojima ongabe ukuthi ujima ngoba useThekwini noma useMphunguleni noma useGoli and all that, but it's we're trying because it's a part of wellness, this thing yokuba fit. Bengithi nizoshaya izandla. The problem of management, all of us, the resisting aim, it looks bad when a young police, beautifully and put a uniform and go and dance in TikTok. Please. No, you can't be having a mapois hambe benuge dancer on TikTok. It looks bad. If you want to be in TikTok and dance, put me in uniform. Open umlomo. Ugqoka isiketi esifishane dance. You can't really, you know, somebody opened me a channel on TikTok. Ngiyayibuke hayadansa abantu basane hayadansa sekudansa nabafana bebengekho abafana bakhona manje. You know, there are good things about police as a TikTok when we are training and all that kind of thing and all shy creature that looks good. I think I love that. But when I find you at your own advertising yourself, you should come along, hey, Haibo. Please stop it. So we are asking leadership that we are going to be very tough with that kind of approach. When we get in the ministry and management, we get tough. Don't fight us on that. That can happen. Finding full uniform. Khona babile ngibabone only yesterday. Bafaka ibhedge ebovu yabona eze POP. Lezo POP sifaka ibhedge ebovu. Siyadansa uzadansa ngayo ibhedge endlini. Uyayihlola yabo. So ankhuzaneni, do the right thing. A single individual police who can't be advertising yourself and doing things that people they do in the TikTok. Amaphoyisa ayabulawa. 3 months last term, 31 police were killed in 3 months. Killed even on duty. So, I just wish that the chain, I know that that's a big one here, the chain of the cluster must work together. You know, in Western Cape, we took a case of a murdered police on duty and in uniform, and the whatever judge there refused to enroll the case Utibapis of a murder police. I don't know why we can't take the murder of a police on duty serious, all of us. So sometimes the prosecution, I snake. And then, unfortunately, most of us, as the outreach program, nabantu ababonwayo usually amaphoyisa abantu bese bethi amaphoyisa have let the criminals go when police are frustrated about those people that have been let go. So but yet we must just work on it. I hope all of us will work on that. Chair, I don't think that one can be proud with this, but I think a little bit could be done. In 2010, when one was there, we found most of the time the police that are killed are young police because it's them that are on the field. I think there is one general that was buried. I was not in my police in Bakona Uria. So Maswangani was a general. So usually we don't bury generals. We bury young guys, warrant constables and all that. And unfortunately, by the time you bury them killed by the criminals, they had not accumulated any wealth. They die young, poor, they live. When we bury to Mazibuko, the young one, and then you just wonder. So we have agreed with the management to say we'll do the little. So there was 200,000, we moved it to 250,000. So we have agreed that level 12 up, those that, not many of them that they died at level at the line of duty by the criminals, they will stay at 250,000. Less from level 11 to level 8 will move that death grant to 275,000. Those that died from level 1 to level 7, those that died will move that grant to 300,000. It's a bad thing to say because we're dealing with a death grant. But families at that particular time, they don't know what to do. So we are trying to say, we're with you, but I think we need to create an understanding what happens to the families of those members thereafter. We shouldn't end on the funerals. as a management and leadership. We shouldn't end at the funeral. We should follow up the growth of the family, what happens to them and all. So those are the things that we are trying to work. I'm not saying to you, when we are fighting and all that, I don't mind the only thing, no two and all that. If you insult me and all that, I'm fine. But you don't insult me, Ngoma Wam. It really makes me very, very angry. You know, I love that woman called my mother. I really love that woman. And maybe that's the thing all of us, we must just develop. Ogoti, as we work on this question of abuse of women, which is terrible. Men, I don't know who tells them that women are there for their pleasure. They rape them, they kill them, they do everything. I usually say when I speak to men, you might not have the wife, you might not have the girlfriend, you might not have the sister, but definitely you do have mother. Definitely you do have mother. So when those satanic figures of grabbing this woman to the bushes and forcing her out and everything, forcing her to open the legs, putting the knife on her, think of your mother. Just think your mother calling your name under that situation. This is your mother. This what you're doing to this woman is your mother somewhere. I'm sure if your mother crosses your mind, you will stop it. Female colleagues, please don't allow yourself to be abused by us as males. Male colleagues, these women are not there for your pleasure. I know you do a lot of rubbish things like this. But for instance, when you work with them, I know. They report, Ramaphosa. I don't want to go to that shift because bangicela. Eyakhise mos. I do want leadership to invite you. I have invited management Ramaphosa. Any sexual abuse in this organization must be immediate expulsion. Once it's proven that there is a sexual abuse and sexual favors, don't belong to this organization. But also, there is a new trend. There is a new trend of using this thing as a hit back to males. There is. So, I know as I'm saying this, people, they will say, I water down the seriousness of GBV. I'm not. Because you sit down and you see, and these things are reported and all that kind of thing. I always ask these young girls, when I go to the shippies, about 2 XA, who make beautiful faces, they put those things, and you know, you have no money, let's get this fish on, and then you go to the shipping. And then you pause, these bottles that figure normally look very expensive, or Moët, or Rosé, or Versailles. And then they sit there, they drink, and in the morning they are told that is the time to pay. And then my sebuzo mawaka and the boyfriend ratio. By the way, nobody must pay. If you don't want her to drink your alcohol, don't give the alcohol because the boat is not the money. But yourself, don't make yourself vulnerable. Don't make yourself vulnerable. Stay away from those dangers and all those kind of things. So bazothi ucela uzonda utshwala vela ngikuthandi. Because makes people do terrible things. Uyabona nje uyindoda nje mawubuza kuseni ubuze abantu uthi awazi ufike kanjani ekhaya. Umnomzana womuzi ayakazi ngifike kanjani. Hey ngivulele uba kwakho. Mhlambe nalomuntu okuvulela uphumile ngesathi kuvulele. Those that they drink alcohol, drink it, but for us, it's a big generator of crime, by the way, alcohol. It generates a lot of crime. So we wish and we make the just drink social and all that kind of thing. But thank you very much. You grow, POPCRU, you grow at all levels. We try from our side to do the best we can. And please never be sweetheart. Don't forget that while you fight crime on behalf of everybody, but your members too must be taken care of. Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much. You are outgoing, huh?
Yes. Yes, I'm outgoing.
You are outgoing. Yeah. It's always nice when the time comes and people they say we have done it. Yeah. Thank you. Ngalosi push ngomshanelo la ngathi umanzi ungamanzi emvula siloku siphusha ngomshanelo.
Yes.
Bokuhle nje fika isikhathi uhambe nathi bahlale besikhumbuza ukuthi sifanele sabe manje.
Okay. Right.
Kanti safi. But yes, that shows the maturity of the organization.
Yeah.
When time comes and we say siyabonga, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, comrades. Thank you. That was the Minister of Police. Minister. We thank you very much. Auto Minister. I will show my member. Ezama ukuzivikela. Ekungake kushintshwe lo mthetho. Criminal Procedure Act of 1977. We can't work. The minister is talking about women abuse. I think that is one issue that we have been discussing in our policy indaba. We called all people from the academia to dissect this matter. But ebuhlungu nansi minister ilethi, I arrest somebody who committed a crime, woman abuse, more especially. And I take him to court. On arrival to court, this man is standing with a lawyer offered to him by government to defend the perpetrator. And this poor policeman is standing on the side with an abused, a victim of abuse. And we go for the first time in court. Court adjourned. And we give him the next day. The next day, the same man is coming with a lawyer given by the state. And the lawyer is not even here to help me. is here against me, meaning the state is here against me and against the victim. Thank you very much, Minister. I hope that will be addressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Comrade President. We will call the second DGS to come and acknowledge some of the guests who arrived today before we continue with the program.
Thanks, President. Mandla. Comrades, in our midst, we are joined by the Deputy President of NUM, Comrade Vilakasi Philip. Comrade, can you greet the Congress? Yes, President. Yesterday I mixed the position. I said Comrade Treasurer is the Deputy President, but I was corrected that she's the Treasurer. Thanks very much. And again, in our midst, comrades, we are joined by the President of SACTU Textile, Comrade Kumalo Susan. Comrade President. Brand news, newly elected 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, President. The President, she's not alone. President is with the DGS, also a brand new. Velima Membinkosi, the DGS of SACTU. Comrade DGS. Then from Samatu, we've got Dr. Sihlangu. Dr. Sihlangu. Viva. Pambile. The doctor is at the back. Then from Pausa, it's represented by the Provincial Office Bearers, Comrade Sibusiso Makubu. Comrade Makubu. No, thanks very much, President.
Thanks, DGS. We will then call upon the Vanguard, as represented by the General Secretary, Comrade Solima Bahir. The socialism. Aguna muntu Petem dava kaye ni socialism. Onge santeni saba aguna muntu ayo sababo Ava mapucha wonoa Omefuna Usejenzelwa ngaba Bae sababo Saba mapucha wonoa Omefuna Usejenzelwa ngaba ni socialism bo onge santeni saba Comrade, I did not say break. There is no break announced. Comrades, delegates, there is no break announced, so you can't be moving out. Ni socialism bo onge santeni Saba agona muntu to apetem saba ni socialism onge santen saba agona muntu abethe mhlaba ayesababo abamabhujwa wonowa obebonake bebono kusetshenzelwa bayesababo abamabhujwa wonowa obebonake bebono kusetshenzelwa ini socialism bo ozabantu akona muntu ophethe mhlaba ini socialism akona muntu ophethe mhlaba mandla batla amandla amandla matla all power amandla amandla Viva POPCRU, viva! Viva POPCRU, viva!
to socialism, forward. Down with capitalism, down. Down with capitalism, down. Thank you very much, comrades. Comrade Deputy President Masamula, Program Director, thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to talk to the 10th Congress of POPCRU. I must say, Comrade President Kebekulu Dogote, I was reflecting those years when there were weapons that came out at a POPCRU Congress, and the road we have traveled to be a united organization. This is a lesson that the entire movement needs to embrace. Learn from the lessons to do better. So it's a mammoth achievement of our trade union organization. Let me greet, through you, Comrade President Kebekulu Zizamele, all office bearers of POPCRU, the outgoing leadership, the provincial leaders, all delegates, and those you are representing here at this Congress. And greet the leadership of our alliance, starting with the ANC through its president, who was here, President Ramaphosa, who also stands as President of the Republic. So, Comrade Tendos, feel assured, he spoke here first as President of the ANC. So, you haven't done much to damage what he spoke about. And all delegations of the ANC, including those who are here in different capacities, but who are serving in leadership structures of our mother movement. And greet the leadership of COSATU, our fighting federation, led by President Zingiswa Losi, and their office bearers here, the fighting shop steward, fellow fighter Mike Shingang, Deputy President. General Secretary as well, office bearers of COSATU, they are all recognized. And all of other delegations from COSATU. And equally great, the President of the World Federation of Trade Unions, one of our own, Comrade Mike Makwaiba. Thank you very much, Comrade President, for being here. All representatives of various COSATU affiliates, international guests, all speakers, the founding members of this glorious organization, POPCRU, all of them recognized. Comrade President, the ministers. I can't forget them. These are ministers of our democratic state, Comrade President. Comrade Lamula, ukulonchile undosi, khuluma amaqiniso. Yabona le progress abanayo yoku-arresta. Nawo kumele ube creative, ube ne-process yokuthi labantu yabaqina. Well done, those. You know, Lena is not a secret. Good, you are my favorite minister. Angukuthengi. Ngayisho in public ungekho. Even ngalesa sikhathi kuthiwa uphume ngoba bokunele reshuffle ezayo. Ngamtshela nomongameli ukuthi uphuma njani ucele asebenza kangaka. We want ministers to be like that. Responsive. And of course, kuthiwa imoto mayihamba izinja ziyayikhonkotha. Uma imile ziyayichamela. Uyahamba mhlekazi. Kuba I must indicate you have got a difficult job, but I can assure you that you have got our support. This doesn't mean that there cannot be any improvement, but you are trying your best. Thank you very much. Comrades, uSekela President we-POPCRU uyazi ukuthi ngithanda ukusithayima and kwaba nento sathi hayi iyekeni iyami naye sayikhazulula even on the first same day, no crisis between us. I'm going to reflect much more on the analytical side because much of our speech has also embraced some of the things that were covered by the previous speakers. But we'll release it officially, so I'm going to focus much on the political side. The first critical question that we want us to reflect on is that, in fact, I want to put few theses on the challenges facing the working class in our country today, a little bit international. One of the first critical tasks that our liberation movement and our society is facing today and in the world is the criminalization of politics. The criminalization of politics has shifted political power from the elected representatives of society to criminal cartels, to shady business people and compliant politicians, not revolutionaries. If you take it further, Comrade Cele touched a bit on this. There's also criminalization of the liberation movement. In other words, there's criminalization of the ANC, criminalization of the party, criminalization of COSATU, and all components of the alliance, SANCO and the mass democratic movement. Because in this country now, crime pays. Hence the criminals have understood the locus of power and they are going for it. So we have to free ourselves as a liberation movement from the criminalization of the movement and therefore of our society. We are the leaders of society. I'm going to talk about this question as another thesis. But as the leaders of society, we cannot allow to be contaminated by criminal elements. So that's where it should also start. We need a thorough analysis and engagement of the leadership component of the rest of the movement, particularly the association with criminal cartels. At the same time, there is a resurgence of capitalist confidence that has also launched an onslaught against the workers as well as against the liberation movement. And there are reasons for that. But let me start by saying, capital has decided to remove the liberation forces from political power. This is our strategic enemy, capital, has decided to remove the liberation movement from political power. They are contesting more sharply the current moment of our liberation war, struggle. In other words, at the moment, they want us below 50% and force us into coalitions. But literally, and figuratively and clearly, they are preparing to rule this country without us. In other words, they think the time has come to dispose of liberation forces. Of course, they talk about a mature democracy. But the main reason for this is that this is a class analysis, President of the World Federation of Trade Unions, is that capital has realized that it can no longer continue to be profitable under the leadership of the liberation forces today in the context of huge social pressure from the masses for the government to deliver. That is basic services to the people. So in other words, one of the concessions of our democratic dispensation was the continued profitability of capital. Now, capital cannot be guaranteed about that. There's too much social pressure from the masses for our liberation forces to do better, and indeed we can do better. We have got political power. Political power. If it was according to my liking, we could just find a weekend to workshop the political leadership of our entire movement about the concept of power and the exercise of political power when you are in charge. Because some of the comrades believe that democracy, as it is in our case, is power. Democracy is not power. Democracy is the road to power. But abanye ma comrades I can't no sense figure. We've got democracy. Everything must just run. There must be a political exercise of power in democracy, and democracy accords us that opportunity to exercise that political power effectively on behalf of the working class. What we now see is the fact that the liberation movement that has got its hands on political power, but is not the ruling class. Proper political power is also in the ruling class. We have not suppressed the ruling class in this country. On the contrary, we have mollycoddled them. We have played with them. They've become arrogant. That is why capital today, the level of exploitation of the working class, of the workers, of people as a whole, is more acute and sharpened by capital precisely because the political parties in power have mollycoddled political power. So we need to take back political power and exercise it proper. When you exercise political power, there's not this thing that, for instance, if you do it right now, it's because you are doing it for elections. No, even a day before the elections, exercise political power for as long as you are in charge. At the same time, we must also indicate that in real Marxism, this is our guiding ideology as a communist. The ruling class is always the dominant force in society. That is why if you win political struggle and not change the ruling class, you will always be subjected to the interests of the ruling class. Karl Marx had actually even indicated that the dominant views in society are those of the ruling class. That is why, even when you engage everyone in society, they think, no, this liberation movement have reached their sell-by date. They are expressing the ideas of the ruling class that has now got heartful with us because we are now tampering with their profitability, or they see the social pressure that forces us to tamper with their profitability. Now they want us out. This thesis, comrades, basically says, whilst we think we've ruled South Africa, we have never ruled it. We forgot to rule. We must take charge and rule. In other words, ruling a society, you control the means of production. The commanding height of the economy must be in the hands of the ruling party, and therefore the ruling party must transform society itself into a ruling class. What are the commanding heights of the economy in the context of South Africa, or even the context of the world? It is what the IMF and the World Bank today call the network economies. Nice word. Network economies. Uzocabanga ukuthi these are top academia. Khuluma isilungu esiphezulu. What is network economy? Network economy is water, sanitation, energy, transportation, telecommunication, and many others. All of this should not be in the hands of capital, should be in the hands of the public sector. This is what we call the network economy. Now, the IMF and the World Bank and the OECD countries, they use a new lexicon, Comrade President. They call it bringing competition into the network economies. They are ready to implement this thing of bringing competition in the network economy, when actually, in principle, it means privatization of this public sector-led or so-called services industry or sector. Now, what have we done here in this country over the last 29 years in political office with the network economies? We've brought capital significantly in these areas, including currently in the field of energy, where part of the crisis of load shedding in this country is exacerbated by our addiction to bring the so-called competition in the network industry. And Makawan, Congress, I want to put a simple challenge to the leadership, particularly of the ANC, about the resolution, the economic resolution at Nazareth Conference of the ANC, last year, December, on this section of network economy. This thing is the one that brought massive tensions in the alliance. We even named people on this question when we were responding to COVID-19 as the alliance. The alliance intervention was hijacked by some bourgeois scholars who took away this thing and brought what government ultimately adopted as the ERRP. In your liberal economic framework, that thing will never transform society with that thing. Doesn't matter how many government ministers regurgitate it every single day in every platform. It's an illusionary intervention. The frameworks will be okay. Because when they put the frameworks, for instance, let's say in the energy sector, when they want to bring private sector role, particularly on renewables, who are largely the main investors, despite our ignored calls for recapitalization of ESCOM itself to participate in the renewable sector for many years. This has been falling on deaf ears because of this addiction to neoliberal economic trajectory. Lento ya hijackwa so-called advisors of the ANC Economic Transformation Commission. And I put this challenge. If it's possible, if I'm wrong, and I will apologize in public, the ANC can release a clip of when the economic resolutions were adopted in the plenary of Congress, of the National Conference. The ones that were adopted and the ones that were released, so-called cleaned, Comrade Lamola. The cleaning, when you clean resolutions of Congress, even this Congress, there will be cleaning. Because sometimes, comrade, there's a POPCRU way of doing things. Sometimes, comrades, when you adopt resolution, you find that but when you analyze it, aliko congruent, alhambisani nomgomo ka POPCRU. So you clean that. But you don't fundamentally alter the direction of the resolution, which is what happened with Nasrec on economic resolution. That's the reason why we have these cameras in our congresses, so that we can release them in public. Because this thing creates unnecessary tension within the alliance. Because we are donating our economy as the ruling political movement to the ruling class that has entrenched itself and has even taken a decision to kick us out of political office. So we have to deal with this particular question. Again, comrades, the ruling class is shaping its own agenda. At the same time, you have a government accepting to be captured by the ruling class. We used to complain about state capture and complain about individuals who have been captured. The ruling class is today capturing the rest of government. That is why, Comrade Taylor, listen to the voices that criticizes your work in the police. The working class complains about the fundamental question that we have raised, the relationship of Magati Amapoisa work. It doesn't mean that you are not there. Basically, since you are not there in the right numbers to respond to crime. When they speak, they are clear about what they are trying to do. They want to create space for private sector security that should overpower the security of the state. That's their mission. Go to the gated houses in our communities. They've got advanced systems, machinery and everything else. Why don't they donate this thing to government? They want to co-rule. Look at the logjam on logistics, for instance, that they've now coerced government to enter into an alliance with capital without engaging with its allies. So only business can now go and resolve the logjam and Richards Bay. On what basis is business having the ability to run the affairs of government and elected government? These are non-elected representatives of capital. They represent only but profit for themselves. And when we enter into this relationship without any discussion inside the alliance leaders must just be compliant and keep quiet about it. We will never accept that as Communist Party. We will never allow our movement to be captured to start with. We will fight to defend this liberation movement. This movement made the greatest sacrifices for the liberation of this country. It will be foolhardy for anyone, a component of the movement, to allow it to be so simply hijacked. So, in other words, comrades, capital want us out of political office. Our comrades leading government must not enter into an unholy alliance with this unreliable component of society called capital. Another question, comrades, is that the wealth is facing massive disintegration of the US hegemonic system that is reflected in the path towards ending unipolar world system, characterized by the resurgent voices, particularly from formerly oppressed colonies, where people are beginning to assert national independence. We have seen, for instance, with Francophone countries on the African continent, where even, for instance, there have been military coups recently. And Comrade Masemula, we refused as the Communist Party to condemn those coups in Central African Republic. When we refused, it's precisely because you have elected leaders who are simply the conveyor belt and cronies of imperialist France or colonial countries. And South Africa must not become one of those. We should not become the weak link in the imperialist chain of control of former colonies. That is why, for instance, I must indicate we have been extremely pleased by South Africa's new international posture. First, let's thank Comrade Naledi Pandor as minister. She has been unequivocal. That's the voice of a government minister that we want. The president himself, when he was at the UN in the General Assembly, he was clear about national independence and national sovereignty. But national independence and national sovereignty, comrades, goes hand in hand with protecting your economy. In other words, when you assert political independence, which is the prime authority of social discourse, you don't give in on economic independence. Politics is supreme, and politics is concentrated economist. Even some of the ministers, I heard one of the ministers one day would know, let's not be ideological. What nonsense is that? Politics is ideological. Revolution is ideological. Economy is ideological. So therefore, the disintegration of the US hegemonic system in the world and the possibility for the building up of multipolar world system, broadly democratic and with different socio-economic system chosen by independent countries and people, has threatened world powers. The G7 in particular, they are threatened by this. They are doing everything they have to destabilize the world. That's the same angle you must understand what's happening in the Middle East today. The primary objective of the US hegemony in the Middle East is to keep the proxy state of Israel in order to control the Middle East. Because the Middle East at the moment guarantees the value of the US dollar through petrodollar system. US dollars is no different from South African rand. It is no longer pegged against a mineral that is American based. So in other words, in the past it used to be pegged against the gold. Now it's no longer pegged against the gold. It's just paper money. It's fictitious money. It has no value. Why should such a fictitious currency be imposed on the world? On that basis, why should an independent government accept this fictitious currency and impose on itself austerity measures and neoliberal economic trajectory when the US cannot do so? Let me tell you this. Just recently, now, a few months ago, the US government was about to go into what they call economic cliff when, according to the so-called rules that they have there on the economy, they were about to run out of money. In other words, they needed Congress to approve money bills. And there was disagreement about this. The money bills that they wanted to approve was actually a debt of over 33 trillion US dollars. So the US government runs on debt. We are told here, even following bourgeois economics, that we cannot have a debt as a state, as if we are individuals. You want to mount debt as a person. Like the point that Comrade Kelly was indicating, when police officers are killed and their families have to sell everything because the breadwinner is gone. It's a household debt. Some people even commit suicide about this. But for a state, you don't create an impression that the state will not be employed in the next 10 years and therefore you cannot continue to pay your debt. But we have fed that illogical bourgeois economy by our Minister of Finance and the coterie of groups in the Finance Ministry. That has elevated itself as the prime policy maker in our country. The prime policy makers in our country should be driven by social development, by the ministries of public service responding to the needs of our people, not some bourgeois guy who craft the budget of South Africa from New York or Paris or London. That is why, Makabani, this thing, it's not without exaggeration. I guess some of you are doing some studies on economy, even if it can be a social interest. Go and read or compile the various annual reports of the IMF and the World Bank on country specific. Just focus on South Africa and see what they say, and see what the Reserve Bank does, and see what the Minister of Finance does. They never do what we say here or respond to the needs of our people. They respond to the needs of the IMF and the World Bank in order to get proper ratings, so-called, by the rating agencies. We don't give a damn about the rating agencies when our people live in squalid conditions and live in poverty. We must respond to their needs. That's why they impose austerity and say you can't fund this. Even this fight, by the way, Comrade Kelly, this fight, the one that you are announcing here proper, we won it also as the alliance. Because we said to Comrade Enoch, after there was a report of the Stellenbosch meeting between the President, the Minister of Finance and the Governor of the Reserve Bank, that there's no money in this country. I have said it in public. I want to repeat it here on record. That's absolute lie. It's not possible. The reason it's not possible, comrade, is that we are the creator of money ourselves. We create our rent through the Reserve Bank. We just introduce new money bills, the new currencies. No other person, no matter how rich you are in this country, can create our rent. We create it as a state through our Reserve Bank. Now, when you are the creator of money, how can you say you don't have budget for the police? You don't have budget to build roads. You don't have budget to build electricity capacity for the country. It doesn't work like that in proper developmental economics led by revolutionary movement. But if you just simply embrace neoliberal capitalist economic trajectory, that's what you will continue to do. You will find excuses. You will think that the existing budget that you have, you can't even expand it. So you always think contractionary way, no expansionary notion of developmental thinking. You are always constrained unless the big powers come and say, do this, do that, do that. Then you can start doing it. We are the political authority. We should exercise it as such. Another point, Comrade Chair, is the moral degeneration of our liberation movement. This, comrade, has inflicted very badly degenerate tendencies inside the liberation forces. All of us, including the Communist Party. When sometimes uzomuntu athi ya debate and comrade athi ya, but this one is not a communist. How does it come to your head? generally because the movement, all cadres of the movement are affected by what happens in one component of the alliance. This degeneration of the liberation movement, in fact, is the moral degeneration of the liberation movement. It's driven by these tendencies like factionalism, self-interest, even what we call aristocracy, that is aristocratic leadership. Those leaders who do not want to leave their positions because these positions guarantees them well-being. That's aristocratic leadership. Because the positions of leadership are no longer positions of service, but positions of primitive accumulation of individuals. Factionalism guarantees this across the entire movement. We still do not have a system in the liberation movement that controls this question. We need to find the solution. This Congress, Comrade President, must discuss some of these questions. How to help the movement to be non-factional, to unify itself. Not to unify on wrong tendencies. You know, for instance, we've been telling our movement, the ANC in particular, that's our mother movement. That's why sometimes they experience the share of big criticism, because they also represent us in the state. We say, comrades, you know, take seriously this question of the renewal of the alliance and the renewal of the ANC itself. But some comrades believe that once Congress or conference come and they are elected leaders, they represent the renewal. So if I'm elected, I'm the renewal is done because I'm the leader. Now, this tendency is extremely faulty. It's a gross mistake. The movement must have the capacity for constant renewal in order to continue to lead society. This moral degeneration has led society no longer to look at us as the preferred leadership of society. You now even have lumpen forces openly fighting the African National Congress or its allies. You know, and I don't want to damage this question, but the damage is a secondary question. The primary question is the truth. Umathunjwa we-AMCO ukhuluma kabili in the last 2 months when there's some conflict there and there. Kuthiwa akuna vanguard leadership. Khulumela uwatheke Communist Party. I just want to let him know that whilst we've been trying to meet with them, broadly all other organizations, including other components of federation outside the alliance, we will not keep quiet to continue to be insulted willy-nilly by forces that did not even engage us. Precisely because we are in alliance with the ruling movement, or we are part of the ruling movement. Now, this question, comrades, has made people no longer to trust us. What is now called in society the trust deficit. The degenerative tendency of moral decay inside our movement. So we have been infiltrated. Even in government, there's huge infiltration. In government, there's even a worse form of it. It's called compradorial class. In other words, it means a group of public servants who in their job every single day, they guarantee their future. So they steal from the masses when they're supposed to be working to guarantee their future. They work even for foreign governments. So this is a terrible thing. It used to be done by colonialists when they were controlling various colonies across the world, in Africa, Latin America, Middle East, and other regions, Asia and so forth. Now you have a compradorial class inside government. And they work by something, those commissioners, This affects all administrators in government, not meant for you per se. Where, for instance, the first thing that they do, Comrade President, when you get into office, and I want to give this new advice to the incoming president. Don't be patronized. Remain decisive. Don't be patronized, even by the business units of POPCRU. Let them not patronize you. The compradorial class in government patronizes our leaders. Yabona ke comrade Kel, uthuma ungena ku department, this comrade baku-arrangele the people that you must meet. And these people that you must meet, these are so-called stakeholders of the sector, Comrade Lamud. They throw parties and this and that and that and that. The people that are coordinating them, after all of that is settled, they come and say, Comrade, can we have a meeting? As the English says, there's no free lunch. That's how they start. They compromise leadership. So it is in this regard, Comrade, that we must deal with these tendencies that are infiltrating our own movement and have brought all these wrong tendencies, including corruption and self-interest. And we want to appeal to this Congress to further engage on this critical question of crime facing our society. But I must start by thanking you, comrades, POPCRU members. All of you together, when you provided frontline services to our country, together with other frontline workers, the health workers, and other sections, the teachers. And when you were supposed to be rewarded by the country, you were attacked by a neoliberal posture in government. What attacked you was neoliberalism, was austerity, was capitalism. But this capitalism is today in crisis. Fidel Castro explained the deep nature of the crisis of capital worldwide. If you read his articles, it's like he was seated in a desk yesterday analyzing the world today. We are still faced with similar challenges. So the liberation movement has to free itself from the clutches of capitalist control. That's the first task. As you talk about defending collective bargaining and strengthening it, we must reflect on the weaknesses that led to government to renege on a signed agreement with labor. An issue, comrade, that created a lot of tension inside the alliance. And when we spoke in defense of workers, not only workers who were right in the front line when everyone feared going out, only Kele went out. One of the few ministers who was just out there. I was damn worried about your health, comrade Kele. You see, even every day is out there. A good battle. That's what all soldiers of the liberation movement, soldiers of the people do. With this question, comrade, we must look at the weaknesses that led to that and reflect on how to avoid such happening again. Because, Comrade President, our access to government gives us that privilege to engage our comrades in government intimately and in depth to understand the challenges that we face as the working class. The crime, of course, as I indicated, it's a catastrophe in this country. But I've analyzed its politics. Comrade Kele gave statistics and what needs to be done. I want to end by the international sections, comrade. Quickly look into what is currently happening in the Middle East. The Israeli attack on the Palestinian people, unwarranted, unacceptable. State terror unleashed against civilians. Even state terror of that magnitude is not allowed to be unleashed against your adversaries. Israel has become a terror state, a murderer state, killing women and children indiscriminately, destroying public infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, universities, mosques and churches. What kind of a country is this? Now, to all those who are religious, I want to clarify this point clearly. This Israel we are talking about is not Israel of the Bible. It's the Israel created in 1948. It's not Israel of the Bible. Please, stop worshipping this murderous state of Israel. Any religion cannot condone what Israel is doing today. It is in this regard, comrade, that we want to appreciate the South African government's position, first to recall its diplomats from Israel. But we say, while this step is very important, we must ultimately shut down the Israeli embassy in our country. We must expel the Israeli ambassador from our country. And we must intensify the boycott, divestment and sanctions campaign against Israeli goods in our society. We must be conscious as revolutionaries in solidarity with the children of Palestine, with the elderly of Palestine, with pregnant women who are bombed every single day. Humanity has been bombed by Israel. We are losing ourselves. The world powers, which further reflect the crisis of world leadership, because this G7 group of countries that controls the world economy, as they are disintegrating in their unipolarity, no single iota of morality remains in them. And therefore, we must work together with our trade union movement in Israel to provide solidarity and support, no matter how minuscule. Workers conduct anesthetic and operation without anesthesia in the anesthetic interventions in Israel. When they operate you, you feel the pain as it is, because there's no medicine. It's been destroyed by this inhuman country called Israel. It's unacceptable. They bomb ambulances. So we'll plead with this Congress to pass a strong motion of solidarity with the people of Israel, the people of Palestine, especially the people of Gaza, who are completely under siege. Israel is continuing with this carnage that is inflicting on the Palestinian people. This is completely unacceptable, comrades. In other words, Israel must be isolated internationally. And the US government that funds that war machine must equally be condemned in the strongest possible terms. You know, I wish we build our capacity here quite soon. One stupid minister even threatened the people of Gaza that they will unleash nuclear weapon on them. Basically said they don't care to annihilate the entire population. But you know, the soonest Israel start bombarding Gaza, a continuation of illegal occupation of Palestinian territory and land for almost 75 years, the US government sent a warship to the Sea of Gaza. Basically, the people of Gaza can't run anywhere. Whilst we encourage and have been impressed by the interventions, particularly of the People's Republic of China, of the Russian Federation, the two governments and others that have come in, including just recently the Jordanian government, who have provided food and medicine and other humanitarian needs to the people of Gaza and the rest of Palestine. I think they can do better, particularly China and the Russian Federation. We are at that critical point in humanity where we have to stand against this bully government of the USA and its crony in Israel. Voted the continuation of the US blockade on Cuba against 187 countries in the world that have consistently said the Americans must stop these unilateral sanctions against Cuba. They are punishing Cuba, they are throttling that country to nothing. No one holds them to account. Now we're building a multipolar world system, will become independent. Fidel taught us how to be independent. And the people of Gaza and Palestine are teaching us today how to resist. We will continue to resist. In this regard, Comrade President, we want to invoke the words of Fidel Castro in taking forward our revolution. We have discussed this question in the alliance. Given the framework that I've given you, My task is to tell you the class reality of society. Your job is to take decisions going forward. We have said, let's reconfigure the alliance in order to exercise political power appropriately in this country. Because at the moment, we have given in to capital. But in doing so, comrades, we are alerting you of the threats of this country. What you are dealing with this now, I can tell you, Comrade Tele, it's a Sunday picnic. And this statement, I can tell you, when in our last Central Committee in April, I said this statement. People organized media campaign to attack us. When we said, South Africa require an ANC type organization. Therefore, we can't rebuild one. We must just rebuild and renew the African National Congress. A broad progressive movement, multi-class, that is able to unite all South Africans. They want it out. When they want the ANC out, they want COSATU out, they want the Communist Party out of political power. But let's reconfigure the alliance to understand the proper exercise of political power, because at the moment, we are not doing it properly. In the words of Fidel Castro, you will say, let's do all and everything for the revolution and nothing against it. That will guarantee the success of our country. I want to end by thanking you, Comrade President, Dr. Kebekulu, and your leadership. When you are a leader, it's difficult to satisfy everyone. It's a tough job. Sometimes you agree with the collective. Sometimes you differ with the entire collective. I found myself in that situation from time to time. So to respect the leadership question, I want to thank you for your service to our movement over these years. You have been reliable. You have been a great counselor. From time to time, the new president, he must know that the POPCRU office is always open to the Communist Party. We will come and consult with the president and his team about the direction the movement needs to take and the trade union. There were times when we have been contested, and we are still contested today as a liberation forces. But I want to thank you as you are handing over the baton of leadership for the service that you have given to our movement. And in particular, for the contribution that POPCRU made to building the Communist Party. It's unparalleled. Thank you, President. We recognize POPCRU at our Congress for this great effort. But we know that effort of our recognition and gratitude remains inadequate. But overall, thank you very much. And to the new collective, all the best. Take care of this organization. It's a special union for us. Don't destroy it. Amanda! Forward to socialism, forward! Down with capitalism, down! Long live the alliance, long live! Thank you very much.
Amanda! 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 Thanks, comrades. We, without any much ado, we're going to call on the podium the Minister of Justice and Corrections, Minister Lamola, to come and talk to us.
Amandla. 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 Thank you very much, Comrade Program Director, the President of POPCRU. I've heard now from Comrade Soli that you are Doctor, Comrade Kebekulu, and all the leadership of POPCRU here in front, and the entire country. The President of the World Federation of Trade Unions, Comrade Mzwandile Makhanya, the GS of the party, Comrade Soli, the Minister of Police, Comrade Begicele, and all other affiliates of COSATU that are here. A representative of the leadership of the ANC in this Congress, and all Congress delegates. Good afternoon. I know I'm now standing between you and lunch. It is a great honor for me to be in this Congress of POPCRU to provide a message of support on behalf of the Department of Correctional Services and also that of Justice. It is a great honor because when I came into office, the first trade union that requested a meeting with me and put a number of issues on the table was the leadership of POPCRU. They raised about 4 issues with me. The first one was the promotion policy. The second issue was the shift policy of the Department of Correctional Services. The third issue was the issue of self-sustainability by the Department of Correctional Service. The fourth issue that they raised was the issue of the uniform for the correctional services officials. And I said to them, comrades, let's put a program together. Let's work to achieve the issues that we are putting on the table. Firstly, I'm happy to announce that between the Department of Correctional Services and organized labor, you have agreed on a promotion policy, which means that there will be a fair and a transparent process of recognizing good and meritocratic work by all the workforce in the Department of Correctional Services. There will be no Bruce Cup, but people will be promoted and get a deserved increase on the basis of merit. Secondly, on the issue of the uniform, I also want to thank the leadership of POPCRU and all of you who are employees of correctional services for the sacrifice that you have made. Because the first thing that we raised was that we are supposed to issue a tender to buy the uniform for the employees. And there is only another alternative, which we can only do if the leadership of organized labor in the department agree with us. And that was to refurbish, get new equipment for the manufacturing plant in Witbank, which has always been used to produce uniform for the correctional service officials. And you agreed for us to do so. As we speak now, the Witbank facility has the state-of-the-art technology and is now able to produce the uniform for the correctional service employees. But this would not have been possible if you did not agree to sacrifice for a year. Because of that year's sacrifice, as we speak now, we are now able to produce more than what we need. We can now be able to help the entire cluster with the uniform if there is a need and we are called upon to do so. Meaning that all correctional facilities, we are now able to produce for them and we can go beyond that facility. And this did not only happen with regards to the uniform. When we were hit by COVID-19, all of us were scared Across the globe, prisoners or inmates were on strike, rioting to be released by their governments. We were also scared, thinking that there would be mass death of inmates in the country. The workers at correctional services stood up, produced their own mask. You can imagine how much it would have cost government if we had to buy masks for all the inmates at correctional services. But they did it on their own. We produced more than 500,000 masks during the period of COVID, in the true spirit of building a capable state. So in the Department of Correctional Services, building of a capable state, Comrade Soli, is no longer theory, it's practical. You can see it when you go to any center of correctional service. And I'm glad that the president, I heard you said, is outgoing. Before coming to this Congress of POPCRU, he has visited most of our facilities. I know that he has traveled more than 20,000 kilometers across the country to see for himself. The farms that were producing at less than 20% in correctional service, they are today producing more than 20%. They are at more than 50%, and our intention is that by the time we end this financial year, they must produce at 100%. We have bought tractors, we have bought all equipment necessary for the farms to function. And where there is a problem, they raise it, we buy the equipment. That is us building a capable state. We even tell Parliament and even the EFF that the dream that they have of building a capable and a sufficient state, we are not dreaming it, we are living it at correctional service. What we do is not theory. You can touch it, you can see it, you can eat the product of the workers' labor and that of the inmates at correctional service. This is now us building a capable and an entrepreneurial state in line with the Correctional Services Act. And for that, I want to thank the leadership of POPCRU because they agreed to work with us on this journey. And the majority of workers from correctional services who are here in this platform today. We have also, chairperson of the session, have been dealing with the issue of the shift policy. I know that there's not yet an agreement between the Department of Correctional Services and collective labor on this issue. But at least there are draft proposals, which I hope very soon there will be an agreement on them. Because we have been very strict and clear to the management that we must find each other an amicable solution with organized labor on this issue. Because it's at the core of the security that we provide to the people of our country. Comrades, because of the self-sustainability program and framework that we have worked with organized labor to put in place, we have been able even to save the state an amount of about 300 million because of what we do and what we have insourced. And we have also been very clear that what we are capable of producing and doing at correctional services, we must do it on our own, and we only go outside if and not we are not able to produce. The Department of Correctional Services now knows how much is the price of producing bread. It's 7 Rand 20. And we know that this amount, as and when we go out to buy bread if there's a need, we must be able to negotiate the price so that the state is able to buy at reasonable cost. This is an efficient system that we are beginning to build into our system and across our correctional centers. Within the Department of Justice, we have started the process to review the Criminal Procedure Act. I've heard the Minister of Police speaking about the Criminal Procedure Act and the nature of our criminal justice system. The Criminal Procedure Act, comrades, is an act of 1977. We found it in office ourselves when we came in. And I've always said in the department, hence we started the project, that it doesn't matter how many times. If you have got a car which it's a model of 1977, even if you take it to service 20 times, it will remain a 1977 car. So the Criminal Procedure Act remains an act of 1977 which is not compatible to the new and evolving nature of our society, including the criminal justice itself, including issues related to the use of technology. There is no reason today why a person or witnesses cannot testify from wherever they are. There is also no reason today why we cannot run a trial on a virtual platform. Inmates testifying from our correctional facilities, therefore saving the state money from taking people into our courts, even the risk of carrying the inmates to the courts. So we are now in a process to completely overhaul the Criminal Procedure Act so that it's responsive but also is victim-centric. It is true that the Criminal Procedure Act was geared and drafted in a manner to be more friendly to those who committed crime, because it was created under the period of apartheid. It has not been compatible with the democratic system to respond to the victims of crime, but also to enable law enforcement to do their job. It is against this background that before the end of this month, we will release a discussion document and a paper on the Criminal Procedure Act. And I'm glad that I attended a POPCRU policy in the Durban conference. We discussed a number of aspects on the Criminal Procedure Act, including Section 49 of the Criminal Procedure Act. And I hope that as we release the document, POPCRU will be in the forefront to make inputs into the bill that we will be drafting that must now replace the Criminal Procedure Act. It will be important that POPCRU be in the forefront to make these inputs, because one of the challenges we have as a democratic institutions or the state is that progressive forces have left policy making and bill and law making in our country to right-wing and conservative groups. With your think tank and with your product of the policy in Durban, you must take the initiative, be the leader in the process to revamp the Criminal Procedure Act. We can't have people today who were not there or who were the beneficiaries of apartheid claiming to be the defenders of our constitution. Yourself as a progressive trade union, you should be in the forefront, both to defend and protect the constitution, but also to overhaul and reshape the Criminal Procedure Act. The majority of you here are on a day-to-day basis in the cold front of dealing with crime in our country, either in the South African Police Service or in the correctional centers of the Department of Correctional Services. This places you as the best practitioners to help us reshape this policy on the Criminal Procedure Act. It is also against the same background that we are also in the process of reviewing the Correctional Services Act. There's a number of aspects and sections of the Correctional Services Act that are being amended with the hope to make them more victim-friendly and centric. Because we have been criticized that we are only dealing with rehabilitation, we are only dealing with the process of reintegration of inmates, but we are not focusing strongly on the process of the victim, which now has to be reshaped through the Criminal Procedure Act and also the Correctional Services Act. I also glad, comrades, to announce that last month we pinned insignias to newly appointed senior managers in the Department of Correctional Services, including area commissioners and deputy commissioners. Over 70% of those appointed were internal candidates, recognizing the work of these officials. But more importantly is the fact that these officials were not just recruited from a college and rested on their laurels. What made me happy, Comrade President of POPCRU, is that when I looked at their CV, some of them joined the department from the college, but now they are mostly having master's degrees, which means that they improved themselves when they came into the department. So they were appointed on the basis of merit, experience, but also on lifelong learning, which I hope this conference will continue to encourage amongst your members. So that when we say we need to appoint people, we are not embarrassed even when we say we have appointed a comrade from POPCRU, because that comrade will have all the requisite skills and the educational qualifications that meets the requirements of the department. And this will also make our work with regards to the promotional policy easy. It's not only an issue of toy-toy, but it's people who have done their work, they can demonstrate even in the interview. And that is what has happened with these new appointments. We are hopeful that it will encourage also the new recruits that are coming into the department. We are also glad, comrades, I heard you call the Minister of Finance austerity. We are also glad, comrades, that while austerity or the measures have been put for departments not to continue to recruit, Department of Correctional Services is one of those that has been allowed to continue with its recruitment process. So we will continue to absorb the learners that we have advertised the post about 3,500. And we will continue also in the next financial years to recruit. This will enable us to continue to grow our own timber, but also to work on the issues related to the ratio between the inmates and also our own workers. And in this regard, we will also encourage across the country a fair process of recruitment that must enable us to recruit the best in society and also give the best skills and opportunities to some of the matriculants that are coming out of high school. We also, comrades, with regards to the Criminal Procedure Act project, there are a number of issues that I think the Minister of Police has raised, and I'm not going to go there, including the issues related to the environmental design. One of the issues that we need to anchor the process of fighting crime, comrades, which has always been, in terms of our policy, put in place by the National Crime Prevention Strategy, is the issue of prevention, the issue of community mobilization, but also the fact that criminality happens in society and it starts in families. We have to start with the rebuilding of our families in our society. We also have to ensure that our communities are cohesive and engineered in a manner that will enable the prevention of crime. One of the balancing acts this government has to do is that research has proven that in countries which are unequal like our country, there is a high level of violent crime. So if you look at Mexico, Brazil, and so forth, because of the unequal nature of that society, it is also follows that there will be violent crime. We follow or we fall into that category as South Africa. So we have to balance economic growth, job opportunities, also with the fight against crime. So the biggest fight against crime that we need to start with is the one of prevention through ensuring that our economy grows and that people are gainfully employed, having something that they have to do. It is a responsibility of the whole of government and the whole of society to deal with the inequality in our country. This is an aspect which I hope this conference will enable to come with resolutions. How do we come up of this conference to resolve the structural challenges of inequality, which continues to engulf this country, but also to feed into the violent nature of our crime? We also have to deal with the sentencing regime to ensure that those that commit a crime, they must know that they will be arrested, they will be prosecuted, and they will be convicted. If you know that that is what is going to happen, it reduces the level of crime. But with our system, there is a reality, comrades, that we also have to confront. That some of the challenges, while there are those that are embedded in the system, whether we are dealing with the Criminal Procedure Act, with the Constitution of the country, and so forth, which we are saying we are putting it there for review, there is also a human factor of corruption amongst ourselves as police officers, correctional service officials, prosecutors, and sometimes the judiciary. These are aspects that we have to confront and deal with, because when you go to various communities, you get these kind of reports, but members of society are no longer having confidence to report some of these aspects because they say the system is compromised. So we have to rebuild the trust of the system in the entire value chain, from the police, the NPA, the judicial system, and correctional services, so that we can be able to deal with the acts of corruption in our entire criminal justice system, so that people and society can have confidence to report matters to the police, to the NPA, and they also are willing to be witnesses in our court system. This is a duty we have, all of us, as the citizens of this country, or else we will reside into where we were speaking about a mafia state, where no one is prepared to help the state to prosecute and also to arrest criminals. We have a duty to ensure that the system is credible, it's reliable, and also the society has confidence in this system. Lastly, Comrade President, we also call on the ICC, the International Criminal Court, to do its job without double standards. The ICC, in the Ukraine issue, they issued a warrant of arrest immediately against the Russian president. They must act with the same speed to deal with the situation in Palestine. The law, if it has eyes, will undermine the international rule of law and the international criminal justice system. The law must not have eyes. It does not matter who is committing the crime. The state of Israel is clearly committing a crime against humanity. The international bodies charged with this responsibility, they must act the same way they act in any other country that is favored by those that are a ruling class, as said by Comrade Sudi. In this way, we will have a sustainable international system, because it is only an international system based on multilateralism that must help us to resolve world problems. So if these kind of institutions are not able to act with the required speed, zeal, and the same agency as they act in other countries, it undermines the international rule of law and undermines the entire system of the international justice system. And it kills the confidence and the faith of the citizens of the world. It is against this background that we call for the ICC, the ICJ, also the International Criminal Court, to do its job in terms of the Israel invasion and the commission of the crimes against humanity. Lastly, comrades, I also want to congratulate the outgoing president of POPCRU. We have worked very well with you, Dr. Kebekulu, and we wish this Congress of POPCRU great success. We are looking forward to read your resolutions, in particular the resolutions of the policy indaba that was held in Boksburg. I've seen that they will be released today. That is what I'm looking forward to, because I believe it will help us shape the criminal justice system in our country. All the best. May POPCRU grow more and bigger and bigger. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm declaring my gift here, comrades.
Thanks, Comrade Minister. We'll call upon the second DGS to come and deal with the issue of announcement as we break for lunch.